There can only be one winner, Apple or Huawei, or will they draw? Coming up right now, let's go. So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology, and welcome to Apple versus Huawei. Now, I'm going to tell you right from the start, I'm not going to be discussing political topics here about how secure is Huawei or what you're reading in the news, or even about, why it's not sold in the US. We're not going to be talking much about that at all. This is simply a video where I'm going to be discussing my experiences with both phone brands to see which one comes out on top. So in this video, I have the iPhone XS, XS Max, this is the Mate 20X, and the P20 Pro. Now, this is not a review of any of these phones. This is discuss the up-to-date experience as of February 2019 on using an Apple or using a Huawei. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is build, design, and hardware. What do you get if you go with any of these devices? Well, first of all, you're getting top-notch build quality on any of them. So the first thing you're going to notice, whether you get a P20 Pro, you get a Mate 20 Pro, an iPhone, you're getting really good build quality. Now, I do think that the iPhone is a little bit ahead with its stainless steel. And one thing I also want to note is that the iPhone has a little bit more consistency with its design. The XR, the 10, the XS, the XS Max, they all look the same. Whereas the P20 Pro here has a little notch here, and then the Mate 20X has a teardrop notch. Now, they are innovating Huawei on the design to update these to get better and better with each model, but still, it's just a little bit inconsistent that you get a P20 Pro, it's got a bigger notch, and you go over here to the Mate 20X and it's got a smaller notch. So overall, I just find Apple's design to be a little more consistent. You don't get stainless steel on these devices either just yet. Now, the backs of them both feel really good, and really it comes down to personal preference, but I just find the iPhone to be a little bit more consistent. Okay, so when it comes to their displays, I do have to say that it's really hard to pick because they're all running on OLED screens here and they all look absolutely gorgeous. Now, again, this is not a review of any particular phone, but the Mate 20X has one of the biggest OLED displays on a phone I've ever seen, and it's mostly all screen. However, I do like how Apple is bringing that display almost to the bottom with absolutely zero chin, basically making for a really nice display experience. Now, it comes to the sharpness of these displays, I don't find either of them that much different. The Mate 20 Pro is sharper than the iPhone XS Max. I find the XS Max and the Mate 20X to get about as bright as each other. Now, when it comes to the actual clarity, for some reason on the P20 Pro, it didn't look as clear as what I seen on the iPhone XS. For some reason, the text just didn't look as clear. That's probably because it's a 1080 and this is a little bit higher resolution. But at the same time, all these displays just look absolutely beautiful. Now, one thing I do want to note, Huawei has this feature over here on the P20 Pro called Natural Tone. It's kind of like what Apple does here with the True Tone. When you punch in right here, True Tone. Over here, we do have, let me go into display setting, color and eye comfort, natural tone. So that's a very similar feature on this P20 Pro, but again, with the consistency, I don't find the Mate 20X to have that feature. So again, lacking consistency there, whereas the XR, the XS, and the XS Max have that same feature, True Tone. So that's just a little thing I noticed. Overall, whether I'm using any of these, the display experience has been great. So I'm kind of calling it a draw here. It really doesn't make a big difference. You're going to be happy on any of these. So talking about the software. So of course, the Huawei EMUI does run on Android, so it's laying a skin over top Google's software. Here we have Apple's own software and hardware. Now, a lot of people don't like iOS because it can feel stale to some people, doesn't have enough customization, and just gets kind of boring after a while for people who do like to tinker. And that's where the Mate 20X and the P20 Pro have the edge over iOS, but they don't have the edge in updates. The iPhone gets updates and patches a lot more often than this phone. And yes, they do get security patches, and Huawei does push updates to their devices. Don't get me wrong, they do it. But you get more on the iPhone. Now, one thing I noticed about these Huawei devices is that launchers sometimes they don't work well with EMUI. So you kind of, to have the best experience, got to use the EMUI launcher, which is not slow, but I think it doesn't look as modern and up to date, it kind of looks a little bit old in comparison to the software on the iOS experience. So polish. The iPhone is more polished, gets more updates, whereas you get a lot of features with the Huawei P20 Pro and Mate 20X, Mate 20 Pro, and that's kind of like Samsung. So really it's features versus polish and updates here again. One thing I do like about the Huawei phones is that they don't seem to slow down over time like we see on some other Android devices. So if you were worried about that, Huawei is one of those devices that don't really do that. Both are usable softwares. I just think iOS is still ahead here. It just feels more modern, more polished, and up to date. And it's the software I probably would want to use if I had to pick only one. So this win goes to Apple for me. Now, when it comes to performance, the S10 on the way is bringing the Snapdragon 855 with 7 nanometer, but Huawei was first with their Kirin 980 chipset. The 970 was a fast 10 nanometer chip over there for the P20 Pro, but this 7 nanometer in the 20X, the 20 Pro, oh man, the Mate 20 Pro is just really, it's blazing fast. Now, I do feel like the A12 Bionic does bench a little bit higher. The animations are more smooth than snappy, so sometimes if you lower the animations on the Huawei device, it could look a little bit faster and feel a little bit faster on the day-to-day. It's the closest phone I've seen to any iPhone, the later iPhones, to keeping up. So if you wanted an Android phone that is right there with the iPhone in performance, the Huawei phones are kind of where it's at right now. So this is the closest Android phone I've seen to the iPhone XS Max when it comes to, it's just everyday performance. They're both 7 nanometer, and that's probably why. The performance is so powerful that on both, you're still going to be able to do anything that whatever you require to throw at them. So there's no real winner there in performance. Even if the benchmarks are a little bit higher in real world use, it does not really even matter. So when it comes to their cameras, this is a pretty big one here. The iPhone still has dual cameras. The P20 Pro, innovative with a triple camera, was one of the first mainstream phones you've seen with this, 40 megapixels. Man, these phones right here, I don't care which one you go with, these are some amazing photography machines in your pocket. They both have AI, they're both very fast to shoot photos, and they both shoot amazing photos. Now, I do have to explain my experience because this one also has a triple camera here on the Mate 20X. It's more versatile for photography for these Leica cameras you see on the Mate series, the P20 series, the P30 that's coming. They zoom much farther and they do have a much sharper zoom as well. So for photography, the iPhone has some really good skin tones and color, and it just kind of nails the photo almost every time. I find that the Huawei photos are really sharpened. So if you like a sharp look, you usually sharpen in your post-processing. You will like the Huawei photos. Also, the Master AI boosts the saturation quite a bit on this phone here, on any of these Huawei devices. And it feels like it's got a lot more pro kind of features here on the P20 Pro, the Mate 20 Pro, Mate 20X. So I think photographers that are really into tweaking their camera will probably prefer what Huawei is offering up. But I think for people who want a phone camera experience are still going to love just the simplicity of iPhone and how good it's getting at taking photos with its new Smart HDR. It's just really incredible. Dynamic range is up there. And really, I couldn't pick a winner because either camera I went out with, I was extremely impressed. It's more of a matter of how you use the camera versus which one is better, because they're both really good. Now, selfie, there is a unanimous winner. I find the iPhone to be a just better selfie taker. Yes, they have a higher megapixel count on the P20. Again, colors are subjective, but the iPhone gets much closer to reality in how those photos turn out, where you get a soft kind of fake looking image here for the Huawei. So all day to the iPhone when it comes to selfie. That goes for the Mate 20X as well. Now, my experience with video is actually pretty cool on the Mate 20X because the viewfinder is just massive. I mean, just look at that viewfinder. It's huge. Let's go over here to video, and you could see I have it in the Cinema 29:9. This is like one of the first phones I've ever seen that shoots in 21:9 aspect ratio. If you don't know what that is, that's basically the ratio you're gonna see on like a movie, like when you have the black bars on the top and the bottom. You can also shoot in 18:9 here, which is like the new way phones kind of show video. You can shoot in 4K HD. And you can also shoot in 720. You can go H.265. They got nice file formats. It was really fun to shoot video on this massive phone right here. But the iPhone still was the phone that I liked the video quality from more. It just has the better video quality for me, it looks kind of like what I see from Canon cameras. I just think that the iPhones, for some reason, they have that similar color, that where you just like the way the color looks right out of the camera, like a lot of people do with Canon cameras. So that's a nice thing about the iPhone. The video itself, super stabilized, and most wouldn't even argue against it. It's some of the best video, if not the best video, you can find on a smartphone today. It goes up to 4K 60, which is the deal breaker for me between Huawei and Apple. The 4K 60 is what I want in my camera because it makes sharper video on an already smaller sensor that you get on a phone. So yes, for me, video experience, while the Huawei Mate 20X with its cinema modes were pretty awesome to use, the P20 Pro had some pretty bad stabilization, so I didn't really like shooting video with this one. The iPhones, though, are the phones to go with for video. Now, one area where the P20 Pro is definitely strong is battery, but so is the new iPhone XS Max, and so is the XR. The XS doesn't get in my list as some of the best battery out there, but with the offerings of the XR, the XS Max, the Huawei devices were way ahead, but I'm still finding them now to be pretty much on par. So what I mean by that is both are giving you a good battery experience no matter which you go with. So yeah, battery on the Mate 20X though, with a 5000 milliamp, you're really going for a lot there. That's really crushing most iPhone in battery life. But at the same time, I don't find battery to be an issue on any of them. So battery has stepped up and they're pretty efficient at this process. So I don't think this is a deal breaker on any of these phones. That one doesn't have the battery setting. I don't think it's a deal breaker whether you go with any of these devices. Battery is good enough to get you through a full day easily on any of the premium Huawei devices or iPhone devices. Now, one area where Huawei does get a point is charging speed. These phones with their Huawei superchargers through USB-C, becoming the universal standard, does charge super fast. I've never seen phones charge as fast as these Huawei devices are charging. I mean, even faster than the OnePlus 6T with its dash charger, these Huawei's are charging. So, I mean, they look pretty thick, these superchargers that you do get with them. But man, if you want a fast charging phone, you got to get these Huawei's. But most of them aren't wireless charging. The Mate 20 Pro does, but not all of the Huawei's are, whereas most of all the iPhones, again, very consistent, are wirelessly charging from the 8 series, 8 Plus, 10, the 10R, 10S, 10S Max, all of them wireless charge. So again, that consistency is there again for Apple with that, but they charge very slow with the included chargers. You have to buy accessories. So know that when you're going with Apple, you're going to have to buy accessories versus you'll get a fast charger, a supercharger with these devices over here. So when it comes to audio, I find that the XS Max is probably the best speakers I've ever heard on a smartphone. They are very loud, very full here for this device on the XS Max. The Mate 20X has some extremely loud speakers as well, but they're easily covered due to their placement, but still very loud. So I don't think, again, this is probably a deal breaker between deciding. I think the real decision is the software. Do you want to use EMUI or iOS? I think that's the biggest deal breaker between two of these when you are choosing, because the speakers on these newer Huawei's are also very loud. The P20 Pro also has dual speakers, so it's plenty loud enough as well. The XS, very loud. I found the sound to be a little bit clearer and fuller out of the iPhone series though. Not so much so that I could just pick it, over Huawei just because of that one feature. None of these, except for the Mate 20X, has a headphone jack. Audio, probably the iPhone for external audio, but still you do have at least one offering here with a headphone jack in the Mate 20X. So in conclusion, I don't really want to pick a winner because I don't feel like any of them is a winner on their own in terms of, just being the best over the other. They're all winners, and it really comes down to what your preferences are. Now, I know a lot of you watching this are probably in the US and you don't even care a lick about Huawei in terms of you're going to buy one. Maybe you're just interested in the Nick Ackerman channel and watching this video. I appreciate your support. But some of the viewers on this channel aren't from the US, so they can buy Huawei devices. And most of you probably are using iPhone as well. So all of them are really good. And to me, it's a draw. They're evenly matched, really. There's areas where the iPhone shines over this, and there's areas where these shine over the iPhone. So we're getting to a point here where the better overall package really comes down to your needs. If you like simple, reliable, long-term software, there's no beating the iPhone here. If you like a very stable Android experience that doesn't lag over a long term, and you get some versatility with a kind of Apple-like experience when it comes to the way their icons look and having those like True Tone-like features, I think you'll really love the Huawei device. But there really is no clear winner. Using both of these represents some of the best technology you can use today. Unfortunately, if you're in the US, you just don't really have access to the Huawei devices right now. If you want to pick one up, you can do so unlocked, or you can do so get it on Amazon or something. You're doing so at your own risk because there might not be band support for your carrier. But the Mate 10 Pro was a US official sold Huawei device. If you wanted to try it out, you can go get a used Mate 10 Pro that was for the US. That was the last one. So that's my experience with Apple versus Huawei. To me, neither one is better than the other. It just comes down to what's better for you. And that's what I want to know. So what is better for you? Comment down below. Did you like Huawei more and why? Or no way? Do you like Apple more and why? Or no way? Do you like Huawei more or no way? Comment it down below. I love to talk to you about this because I think these are two of the best smartphones in the game. Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate the support, the love. Thumbs up if you enjoyed it. I will catch you all in the next episode. Nick here helping you to master your technology. Be sure to be well and peace.